Today we're going to be dealing with the last installment, hooray, of Chapter 6. This is POP Chapter 609. I just sent you a zip file, a link to a zip file in my G Drive to the code. I sent two, but ignore the previous one, just use the last one, because the last one has a better of this one, a better O9. If you have trouble installing it, because it does need to be in a particular place, and it has a couple of subdirectories like it's shown here. It has datasets and examples folders under the code for the book, for your book. So we're going to be dealing with SQL databases. We import pandas, we import SQLite version 3, and we import SQL Alchemy. SQL means search and query language. SQL, search and query language. SQLite is a serverless database and it's self-contained. This is also referred to as an embedded database, which means that the database engine runs as part of the app. MySQL, which is the one that I use for example, Top Quarks, requires a client-server architecture to run, so it runs only over a network. You can create a network inside your computer by using something called the local host. But SQLite, it just runs as another part of your Python without having to set up a server. Now, SQL Alchemy is the Python way of mapping the relational syntax of SQL to the object syntax of Python. So it gives you all the flexibility of SQL with the Python syntax. Interacting with databases. We establish a query, which is create table statement. Not actually a query. A query would be asking a database, a table for something. This is actually called a DDL, a data definition language statement, because it's creating, it's not querying, but okay. We create a table called myTable with 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. The first one's going to hold strings of up to 20 characters in length. The second one the same. The third one real numbers, and the fourth column integers. Here we actually establish our connection to SQLite, and this is a given name that you give, but use .sqlite extension. Then we execute the query that we've created. So this line is going to execute create that table for us, table called myTable, and we have to flush it into the drive with commit. Now that we have our empty table with the right structure, we're going to establish, initialize state data to insert variable with a set of tuples there, a list. Atlanta bar chart, Georgia bar chart. 1.25 is a real and 6 is an integer. And we have 3 of those rows with those columns. We put into a variable the string of, this is an actual query. We're inserting data into myTable, and this is a replaceable parameter syntax of SQL, which we're going to use in execute many because we're executing several lines there. We're going to use the SQL statement that is insert into that, and the data to insert is there very nicely packaged. So we have the insert and the data all in one line. And then we commit to the drive. Now cursors are temporary views of the data in SQL tables. You're going to see the term views used a lot in database contexts. But the cursor comes back only in RAM, and you can then manipulate it and convert it, as we'll see later, into a data frame and so forth. Here, with the connection, again, we execute a statement. Select everything from my table into the cursor. Now we put them in rows. This automatically creates the rows for us of that cursor. And we print them. And that's example A. This right here. So we see the raw aspect there of the list of 3 rows. Here we make a pandas frame out of that same cursor. So we have a pandas data frame, and this syntax here does the whole shebang of writing a nice data frame from our cursor. And then we print the data frame, and that's here. Now, in example B, we're going to use SQL Alchemy, alias -SQL8, with an existing DB connection. In order for this example to run, we must have run the previous one, because the previous one actually created our database. The tables that we've created, like my table here, it's actually inside this my database SQLite, which you can see. Well, we didn't write it down, but now we will. And when we run this, it'll write that database there. Here we were working with a cursor. Now we have SQL Alchemy Create Engine. This establishes our connection differently than before. This connection is going to go one folder below wherever the program is running, okay? So in my case, it ends up dropping it, and that probably is in a configuration file for my Python. It drops it into the examples folder where the other data is. So with that connection, we say pandas read SQL, and this is a statement. That select should be actually in uppercase, just by convention. Select everything from my table, which we created before, using that connection. And we print the data frame, and we get it again. And now it's actually in the disk. Alright, you see, there it is. It appears here. Now this databases are binary in nature, so you shouldn't try to read them, but our tables are all going to end up there. If you were to try to run this again, it's going to give us an error saying that it exists already. The table that we're trying to create exists already. We would need to delete, if you want to do that, I think that by deleting this database, the whole database, be careful when you do this, then we can run it again, and it probably works. I think it should work. Yep. Alright, that's it for SQL, baby, and we have finished chapter 6. I'm going to go to chapter 9 unless you have other ideas. I love you. Bye bye.